right. Shout out to everybody out there all over the globe. Welcome to another episode. We're about to get this thing started. Brother Rich in here. I'm bringing on a guest. If you were around during the Underground Railroad days, you would know this gentleman right here will come on with the brother Minister Jew, and they was known as the priesthood. And they will come on and they will drop heavy gems, major science. So I got half of the priesthood on today. Y'all used to see Minister Jew, the other half of the priesthood. Today I got the brother Noble Anpu, man. I want to welcome you back to the platform, my brother. Welcome back.
Man, what up, bro? What's happening?
Hey man, I'm good. Good to have you on here. And I got an opportunity to talk to you on the phone about last week. And you was telling me about a presentation you was putting together. So I'm
Yeah.
anxious to I think it might be a little controversial. I
Mm.
think
Yeah.
the thing about history. It's very interesting title, Masonic Secrets of Slavery. Very interesting. I don't
Mhm.
know what particular direction you're going.
Yeah.
I know you sharp with your information, my brother, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say in a presentation that you put together. History.
Yeah.
So let me just say, history. So I mean, you can hear 15,000 renditions of the same time period in history. People,
Yeah.
it could get real confusing. So I don't go too much into the past, but I
Yeah.
love studying brothers who've done the research and I hear what y'all got to say. So I definitely look forward, my brother. With that being said, what's going on with this title? What makes you gravitate toward this title and makes you want to talk about the Masonics secrets of slavery?
Y-
No Apple.
Yeah, man. Man, I really got to give a salute to Abe Lincoln, right? Because he pointed me in a certain direction. But
Mm,
the truth of the matter is, you can't really care, in my opinion, if you're going to care about the issue of black folks in America and the diaspora, the problem of racism and white supremacy, as they call it, you absolutely have to study the Civil War. I don't know how you missed that. How do you not go inside of the Civil War? Because this is a matter of a fact. This is established. The country got divided, and the slave master got his behind beat at the end of the day. So I said, I need to go get that story on who is who. Literally, I'm gonna show you people who is who. This person got your back. And so then I said, you know what, man? Basically, you know, the the thesis of it is really like black slaves, white allies. And I think the problem that we have is we can't even identify five white folks who put in work on your behalf. If I take away John Brown and Abe Lincoln, who you gonna name? You stuck. And so for me, it was about studying the most critical apex of our history, slavery, and then going inside of it and figuring out who was who, because it was sides, it was ideologies. Even prior to slavery, I mean, prior to the Civil War, which I ain't gonna really talk about the Civil War today. I'm gonna show you the ideology of certain founding fathers. See, we come from the school, when I say we, me and Minister Judah priesthood, and if you know how the mind works, salute to Dr. Drew Pulcrum. That's one of our goats. Her and Bobby is our goats. If you knew how the mind worked, you would never ever entertain any image, any story where you are in a position that you don't like. You
mm,
wouldn't even do it because
mm,
the brain has something called mirror neurons,
mm,
where the thing that it sees, it will start to mimic that.
mm, mm,
And then if you know the truth of it, in a sense, when you go, see, this is why it's hard for black folks to build something. And when they go off and build something, like, salute to my bro, Tariq Nasheed, you got the African American Museum, but you still talk white supremacy. But we never got the report that white supremacy said you can't build no museum. Dr. Umar, school, beautiful, do your thing. We never got the report saying white supremacy stopped me from building a school. So it's still in our psychology, but in truth, and I'm not saying racism don't exist. Let me be clear. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is We need to understand who was on our side and start telling the story from a victor standpoint, from being victorious, and not from a victim standpoint. You get what I'm saying? So that's what got me into this.
Where did you, before you start, brother? All right, so with that, why the title Masonic Secrets?
Yeah. Man, I should have grabbed this board right here, because some of these dudes that I'm gonna show you were Masons that was putting in work on your behalf. And if you understand the degrees and you understand a quick little history, and again, there's two sides to every story. You can tell it from the people who don't have your best interests at heart. I don't care about them. Stop telling me about your slave master. I'm about to go get the dudes who beat your slave master. And some of these dudes that I'm about to go get were absolutely instrumental in the founding of the countries. Oftentimes, and I'm gonna show you, they was your first this in government. They was the first this and the first this, and I'm gonna show you they were Masons. And then I'm gonna show you as Masonry progress, what in the very end, I'm gonna show y'all what the 33rd degree is about. Since y'all want to keep talking 33rd degree, Illuminati, y'all have no clue what the 33rd degree is about. It's gonna blow your mind when I show you.
I'm
excited.
excited. I'm excited. Let's go. You ready, my brother?
Oh man, let's go.
Okay. All right.
All right. So here I got the Joint Chiefs of Staff here. And the reason why I have this is because, and I always give a disclaimer. Women, this conversation is not geared towards you. You can listen, but it's not geared towards you. Black men lack the ability of military thinking. We are irrational thinkers, i.e., emotional. I don't like the term emotional because emotional is a blanket statement for irrational thoughts and action. So when you have a Joint Chiefs of Staffs that's coming from the Army, you over here from the Navy, you over here from the Marines, we come together as the chiefs and say, yo, this is how we form military strategy. That's our problem. We don't understand military strategy. And I'll say this as well. In this diaspora of Black America, you have to understand at least three different mindsets on both sides of, let's just make it plain, the country, when it was split between North and South. Up North, you can have a mindset that's like, no, this is the land of the free. Slaves shouldn't be free. And if the government goes to war over the slave issue, I'm going to join the government because I'm not going against the government. You will have people that's in the middle. I don't really know. Slaves shouldn't be, they shouldn't be slaves and whatnot. But I'm not going to go against the government. I'm not going to join the fight, but I'm not going to go against it. So they're more of a moderate. Then you would have somebody that live up north and would be like, you know what? I ain't with this. I'm going down south and I'm joining the enemy because I don't like Black folks like that. And but their idea is not a reflection of their homeland, i.e., the North. So you can switch it around. In the South, you got people that's pro-South. That's like, no, listen, man, we're gonna create our own nation called the Confederate States of America, and Black folks, y'all gonna always be slave. You got the moderate. I'm not gonna go to war, but I'm not gonna do anything against the government, right? And then you had traitors. People who had slaves and said, nope, I'm going to write legislation to end slavery, and I'm going to go join the Union and fight against slavery, which is in total opposition to their homeland of the South. So you have at least three ideologies. The problem in Black America is we group white folks up in one lump sum and say, hey, you had slaves, you can't change your mind. And you can't do that. It's many of us that come from the streets that done street things that we no longer do. It's a process of evolution. Are you going to always be the gangster? No, they ain't even you no more. You still the dope man? No, you don't do that no more, right? So there's an evolution. So we need to understand the different mindsets. And that's our problem because we're irrational, emotional thinkers as men, okay? Now, the great Bobby Hemmett said, the conspiracy is to make you think it's a conspiracy. And when Bobby said that, I said, whoa, that's deep. So it's a mind game. The conspiracy is to make you think it's a conspiracy. So it made me think, oh, snap. What if it really ain't a conspiracy? Right? And so I said, okay, that's dope. So salute to my brother Jew. He wanted me to share this with y'all because he loved this info when I get on this time. At the bottom of Minister Jew is a white boy who was a senator in South Carolina by the name of Preston Brooks. He is beating the crap out of a senator from Massachusetts who was against slavery named Charles Sumner. It's called the Caning of Charles Sumner. You can look this up. Also, salute to Henry Ward Beecher, who was a preacher in New York who had a church called Beecher Bible and Rifle Church. So if you know Minister Jew, he always in that Bible. And I'll show you people who believed in the Bible actually got you out of slavery, where some people tell the story, but the slave master had the Bible and he put us in slavery. That's true. But it's another side of the story. There was people who were Christians who had the Bible who was against it and they beat their behind. That's the truth. And I got Quakers over there because truth of the matter is there's another group of people, primarily in the Northeast colonies, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania for sure. They was getting busy and they are part of a whole nother order outside of Masonry, which I'm going to show you on a few slides, that had everything to do and be very instrumental in helping you get your freedom. And they were Quakers. So black folks, you want to put something on your altar? Here you go. Put them Quaker oaths on there. Okay. All right. Salute to our ally, King Louis the 16th of France. And I want y'all to know that the Scottish Rite ain't Scottish. The Scottish Rite is a Masonic order that is from France. This is important because the French will be our allies in the American Civil War. And this aspect of Masonry has everything to do with the hidden keys in Masonic codes to your freedom. It was a silent takeover that I'm going to show you. Okay. All right. Here's one of my favorite pictures. I personally took this picture inside of the Philadelphia Masonic Lodge, #1 North Broad Street, where the Europeans met. And this was the first picture that you come to in the hallway back then. This is Benjamin Banneker, a black man dressed like George Washington, the first president, handing him a map. The person standing is the person in authority. Okay. He's handing him a map because Benjamin Banneker is the one who designed the boundary markers for Washington, D.C. and start aligning it up with the stars. 3 stars in particular: Regulus, Arcturus, and Spica. But here's a black man at the time where you had slaves. See, this is the thing. Some people were slaves and some people was out here free designing Washington, D.C. What's up with that? Okay. So just want to put that out there. All right. This is December of 1776, the Battle of Trenton, New Jersey. Black man in the boat rolling with George Washington. Okay. Here's a famous picture, especially the one on the right. George Washington with his aide with the red turban on, about to cross the Delaware River. Okay. George Washington again with a black man. But this is my favorite picture in the middle. George Washington is at his dining room table. And why is the black man having his hand in his vest like he Noble Drew Ali or something, which is a Masonic pose in one of the degrees in York Rite Masonry? Facts. That's a fact. That's why it's over there on the right-hand side. But the black man is doing the same thing. So to me, this is my favorite picture because there's something symbolic going on with the black man and George Washington. Okay. Got to understand that. Now, the Masonic district, when you get to the Scottish Rite, see, in America and just throughout the world, there's 2 bodies of Masonry: York Rite, Scottish Rite. Well, the Scottish Rite, ladies and gentlemen, has separated and they created a southern jurisdiction and a northern jurisdiction. Okay. Now, this is really ironic, and this happened in 1813, this split within Masonry. But I know from history, the Northwest Ordinance in 1787 said these states up here are states where there will be no slaves allowed. And what a coincidence, these are the same states, all in blue, where the slaves was running to get their freedom. But yet in Masonry, Scottish Rite, their jurisdiction, the northern jurisdiction, is a precise carbon copy of the territory where we were running to get our freedom. Okay. Okay. Now, this is a quote from Abraham Lincoln at his first inauguration. And I'm pointing to him saying, "The mystic chords of memory. And we can read that. Well, before we do, well, I think I got a text of it, but he's talking about the mystic chords of memory. If you know the history of Abraham Lincoln, he's a Rosicrucian, which a lot of the Quakers were. Now, notice I have that box around pilgrimage to Beverly Hall. And then it says, President of the United States, instrument in the hands of destiny to free those held slaves in a free country, immortalized by his noble works in the assassin's hand, member of the great or world council and council of three of the fraternities, which is the fraternity, co-worker, friend, and associate General Hillcott and Dr. Randolph. Okay. Now, why is this important? Because Dr. Randolph is Pascal Beverly Randolph, which is a black man who was heavy into the exoteric science and the first person to bring the Rosicrucian order far as an order into the United States. Pascal Beverly Randolph had a relationship with Abraham Lincoln. When Abraham Lincoln was murdered and they put him on a train to go back to Springfield, Illinois, Randolph was on the train, and then at some point he got kicked off the train because of his skin color. Okay. But Randolph and Abraham Lincoln rode together, and it's on their site right here, which is soul.org, that you can go to. And if you really want to get on the Egyptian science, I keep telling people the Rosicrucians have the Egyptian science. Freemasonry is something else. They're nowhere near on the level as the Rosicrucians as far as the esoteric science go in the application thereof. Masonry is more of a body politic within society, but it ain't no mysteries in there. I know, trust me. Okay. All right. So that last sentence says, through the passions may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic chords of memory, stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart and heartstone all over this broad land, will yet swell the chorus of the Union when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature. Why are you talking about mystic chords of memory, battlefields, people dead, and angels? It's a spiritual thing, ladies and gentlemen. But let me show you how some of this thing worked. You want to see a mystic chord of memory? On July 4th, 1776, Thomas Jefferson signed the Declaration of Independence. So did John Adams. Well, John Adams was the second president of the United States. He died on July 4th, 1826, 50 years later. Earlier that same day, on July 4th, 1826, Thomas Jefferson died. They were roughly over 500 miles apart. And John Adams said on his deathbed, Thomas Jefferson survives, because him and Jefferson were opponents in policy, in politics. But he didn't know Jefferson already died earlier that day. How can they sign a document on July 4th, but then both of them die on July the 4th, 50 years later? And what a coincidence. Now we have 50 stars, symbolic for 50 states in our flag. That's a mystic chord of memory. Here's another mystic chord of memory on July 4th, but now we in 1863. The Battle of Vicksburg is won in Mississippi. That same weekend on the 3rd, the Middle Tennessee campaign was won in Tennessee. The Battle of Gettysburg, real popular in Pennsylvania, George Meade won that. Okay. And this is the July 4th weekend. Now let's look at this. From the furthest points to the other furthest point, we're talking roughly over 1,000 miles, 1,100, depending which way you go. So we're about 1,000 to 1,100 miles apart. And it's July the 4th. And this point is known as the turning point of the Civil War. Facts, when you look into history. This is when they said, oh, snap, the South is about to get smashed and the slaves will be free. This right here. Now, you got to just think of the irony, because the South could have won and we could still be slaves, possibly. But why did it turn in our favor on July the 4th? That's a mystic chord of memory. I'll show you one more, which is real interesting. William McLean was an American wholesale grocer from Virginia. His house was near Manassas, Virginia. It was involved in the first battle of Bull Run in 1861. The first military conflict that the North and the South had was right here, called the Battle of Bull Run. After the battle, he moved to Appomattox, Virginia to escape to war, thinking he would be safe. Instead, in 1865, 4 years later, General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant in McLean's house in Appomattox. Wait a minute. Appomattox, Manassas. That's a 3-hour drive in today's time, roughly 140 to 150 miles apart. 4 years later, the Civil War starts in his house and it ends in his house. That's a mystic chord of memory. Okay. Okay. Here's one when you start to embody a personality. We do it all the time in hip hop in the hood. We got nicknames, right? George Washington Williams. Oh, you want to be George Washington? Okay. Well, you'll become the first Black Ohio State representative, like George Washington was the first president. Okay. So you start to embody energies, but we know this because we do it all the time, especially in hip hop, especially in hip hop. Everybody do it. So now here goes the question. Where does the United States of America start? I said the United States of America. And what is her intentions about slavery at this start? Those are the questions that we really need to understand. Okay. So do you want to start her in 1776, Declaration of Independence? There's nothing wrong with that. But I will argue and tell you that the founding fathers, the one that's on your side, they don't count this as a starting point. And I'll prove it. Now, here's a map of the United States in the late 1790s. This is the French American War. And you have to understand that the 13 colonies at the time is under the control of the British. So these are the British colonies of America, not the United States of America. Let's be clear. This is the British colonies of America. And the French is going to become very, very crucial in this whole thing because they're going to help they're going to help the colonies fight against King George and ultimately become the United States of America. Okay. So we got to understand that. All right. So when you get to the Battle of Lexington and Concord, the American Revolutionary War, this is April 19th, 1775. But let's rewind 1 month prior. Look at a mystic chord. Exactly 1 month prior to the first gunshot being fought on the American Revolutionary War, the Black man, Prince Hall, becomes a Mason. Black people go into Masonry at the time, 1 month prior to the American Revolutionary War. You have to ask the spirit why. Okay. Now, I like to go here to 1774. So remember, 1775, American Revolutionary War, Prince Hall and Mason a month before that. Let's go 1 year prior. Let's go to point number 2. We will neither import nor purchase any slave imported after the first day of December next. It's like a month and a half. After which time we will wholly discontinue the slave trade, and we will neither be concerned in it ourselves, nor will we hire our vessels, nor sell our commodities or manufactures to those who are in slavery or concerned in it. So this is the Continental Congress in October 1774, 1 year before the American Revolutionary War, putting King George on notice. It's 14 bullet points. And point number 2, they're telling King George, we ain't dealing with slavery, bro. And if you deal with slavery, we ain't selling you none of our goods and we ain't buying none of your goods. Why ain't we told this? And this is what Abraham Lincoln pointed to in his inauguration speech. He mentioned this document. So I had to go look it up and see. And I said, whoa, he ain't mentioned this point. But point number 2, that out of 14 bullet points, that's a pretty high priority for slavery to be number 2. But the truth be told, that was October, as you just saw. Let's go 2 months prior. 2 months prior, in August of 1774, Thomas Jefferson writes a summary view of the rights of British America. Remember, we're not the United States of America. British America. Okay. And so I'm going to read this highlight and blow it up for you right here. And I'm just going to read the underline. It is necessary to exclude all further importations from Africa. Yet our repeated attempts to effect this by prohibitions and by imposing duties which might amount to a prohibition have been hereto defeated by His Majesty's negative. In other words, Thomas Jefferson is saying, yo, we've been trying to get out of this slave thing, but you, King George, you won't let us out of it. And this is the colonies, the British colonies, is saying, we don't want that over here. We already got away from you, but now we don't want this. This is on the record, ladies and gentlemen, but yet we're not told this. So let's go back to that Articles of Association of 1774 in October. From Massachusetts, who signs at the top? John Adams. From New York, who signs at the bottom on the left-hand side? John Jay. And on the right-hand side, who signs from Virginia? George Washington. Wait a minute. I know these individuals. George Washington, 15 years later from 1774, is going to become your first president. He's going to nominate John Jay as the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. John Adams is going to become the first vice president. And 23 years later, from 1774, he will become our second president. So the first president and the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court signed a document that says we want nothing to do with slavery. Facts. Okay. Now, remember the song, Mr. Cheeks? Ghetto love is a love that Renee, give it up for my shorty. What do you say? My shorty studied law down at John Jay, because it's a law school in New York. That's where that comes from. Okay. All right. Now we get back to the American Revolutionary War. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand that this war takes place over, what's that, like 8 years, 1775 to 1783. Okay. So let's get to the Declaration of Independence. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. So this is the first time that they're saying we are the United States of America, but they said the 13 United States of America. But in 1776, if you don't win this war by 1783, when it's over, you're not nothing. And it's pretty dope that in the middle of a war, 1 year later, while you're fighting, you're making a declaration. But you still have to fight for that, and you got to win for that. So 1776 is just the documentation, and that's dope. Now, 2 years later, the war is still going on because it ain't over to 1783. We come up with a constitution before a constitution, which is called the Articles of Confederation in the Perpetual Union. Abraham Lincoln would later bang South Carolina and say, hey, you don't have the right. Southern states, you don't have the right to leave the United States of America because we already got a contractual agreement called the Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union. So Abraham Lincoln, one of the smartest mindsets I ever seen studying the art of war. I tell black folks all the time, put that Chinese philosophy down and study this. If you want to study some art of war, Sun Tzu, like you all deep, you ain't on nothing if you don't know this when it comes to war talk. Okay. So Abraham Lincoln says, I'm going to use this as a defense mechanism. I don't have to be pro-slave or pro-against slavery in my speech because I'm going to make more enemies if I do that. I'm just going to bang you on the fact that you can't leave this union. Genius. But in this, what do Article 1 say? The style of this confederacy shall be the United States of America. So the Declaration of Independence, they said the 13 states of the United States of America, but now they're saying, no, we are the United States of America. And what does that very last sentence say? Done at Philadelphia in the state of Pennsylvania, the 9th day of July in the year of our Lord, 1778. And in the third year of our independence, 1778 minus 3 is 1775. I told you. The founders did not see 1776 as the independence. It's nothing wrong. I'm not knocking the Declaration of Independence. In fact, Philadelphia 76ers sound way cooler than the Philadelphia 75ers, in my opinion. Okay. There's nothing wrong with you making an observation as a culture of people. We do it all the time throughout cultures, and it's called moon calendar, Hebrew, the Jews. It's called moon calendar, Islamic calendar, Chinese calendar is over here with the moon. Okay, it's nothing wrong with that. You got a right to make an observation where you want to. I'm just putting you up on game on what the founders consider what their independence was. And there's going to be another document that's going to verify this in a few slides. Okay. So now let's go to the end of this American Revolutionary War in 1783. It's called the Treaty of Paris. Why Paris? Because France is our homies. France says, listen, y'all at war, you and the English at war. Come over here to France and sign this paperwork and call it a deal. Who was there? John Jay. Whoa, we know what he was about. He signed a document saying, hey, no more slaves in 1774. John Adams, same thing. Benjamin Franklin was there. A gentleman by the name of Henry Lawrence and William Temple Franklin. So this is 6 years before Adams and Jay takes office in 1789. This is 9 years after the 1774 Articles of Association, just to give you the timeline. Okay. All right. Now let's look at Mr. Henry Lawrence. He actually became the second president of the Continental Congress. He was from South Carolina. He was a slave merchant who had a rice plantation and had slaves. But what was his view on slavery? He was influenced by the abolitionist literature studying in England. He wrote his son, John, in 1776 that he didn't like slavery. He urged his father to free the family slaves. See, what we don't understand is a lot of these people inherited slaves from their parents or their in-laws. You 13, 14, 15 years old and you getting slaves, but you don't really like it, but that's the way it is. So here's a person from South Carolina who had slaves, but he was against slavery. But I guess that don't count when you too pro Black power, right? Okay. So now let's move up. Benjamin Franklin and the Lodge of the Nine Sisters. The Lodge of the Nine Sisters is formed in Paris, France. Franklin is in France from 1776 to 1785. In 1779, Franklin actually becomes the venerable master, what we call over here in the West, the worshipful master of the lodge. You sit in the East and you personify that you're the sun that's emanating wisdom and teaching people about philosophy. Okay. All right. So that same year, 1779, that Franklin is over in France, became worshipful master, John Jay writes a letter to his homie, George Washington. Remember, these two were back on 1774 Articles of Association. Remember, in a couple years and 10 years from this letter, Washington becomes president and he's going to tap John Jay. Hey, homie, I need you to be the first Chief Justice. And in this letter, read that underline. He said, the dissolution of our governments, talking about the American Revolutionary War, threw us into political chaos. Time, wisdom, and perseverance will reduce it to form and give it strength, order, and harmony. In this work, you are, in style of one of your professions, a master builder. And God grant that you may long continue a free and accepted one. Hence, free and accepted Mason. So John Jay is using Masonic communication to his homie, George Washington. So 3 years later, in 1782, Benjamin Franklin is like, hey, listen, man, John Jay, I need you to come to Paris so we can negotiate this treaty. Remember, the treaty is next year in 1783. Okay. So if we go all the way to the bottom, the final Treaty of Paris was signed September 3rd, 1783, ratified by Congress in 1784. So 1782, Benjamin Franklin, who is a Mason, invites John Jay, who's having Masonic communication with George Washington, come over here, bro, and negotiate this treaty with me. Well, when Mr. John Jay got back 3 years later in 1785, guess what he did? He became a founding member and first president of New York Society for promoting the manumission of slaves. What? This is 1785. He's not even Chief Justice yet. That's 1789. That's 4 years. So as soon as he get back from meeting Benjamin Franklin, the Mason in France, he comes here and he creates an organization to get the slaves free. But was he not 11 years prior on the document, 1774 Articles of Association, that said we want nothing to do with slavery? He's holding true to the game. Okay. Then when Benjamin Franklin got back in 1787, guess what he did after John Jay 2 years later? 1787, Benjamin Franklin became the president of the Pennsylvania Society for Promoting the Abolition of Slavery and for the relief of free Negroes unlawfully held in bondage. So then he becomes the president of an anti-slave organization to get black folks free in Pennsylvania. Wonder what the Masonic conversation was about. So now let's move to the Constitution. 1787, 1789. March the 4th, 1789, the Constitution takes effect. But before we get into the Constitution, because I know 1787, what do we have here on the left, ladies and gents? The Northwest Territory of 1787. Really? The same thing with a Masonic district will later become, as I pointed out earlier. So let's get into the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. 1787, Northwest Ordinance, the very last thing in this thing, literally, the very last thing is Article 6. And what do it say? There shall be neither slavery nor involuntary servitude in the said territory. They don't want no slaves in this territory. See, I'm from one of them states, bro. That's why I pump this blood for me. I'm from the first state over here in this new territory. And mind you, in 1787, these are not states yet. This is a territory that will later become states. And they're making it clear there will be no slaves allowed in this territory. To 1787. This is before the Constitution becomes ratified 2 years later. Okay. And so how do they sign off at the end? Done by the United States and Congress assembled the 13th day of July in the year of our Lord, 1787, and of their sovereignty and independence. What? The 12th. 1787 minus 12 is what? 1775. Oh, didn't we just see that in the Articles of Confederation when they said 1775 is our independence? Here it is again in another document that I told you I was going to show you. The founding fathers is counting when them bullets start popping, homie. Not 1776. Again, I'm not knocking 1776. I'm just putting you up on game. So now we have a law that was passed that says no slavery before the Constitution took effect. Yes. And you know who said this? You know who mentioned this? Let's go to Mississippi's secession speech. And this, you can get this information off of Yale, Avalon Project. At the top, Mississippi talking real slick and green. None but the black race can bear the exposure to the tropical sun. But look at the first point I got in brackets. The hostility towards this institution, slavery, commenced before the adoption of the Constitution. Stop. Time out. Mississippi has hung more black folks than any state in the South, period. And they're telling us that the federal government has hostility towards the institution of slavery. And then they say, well, listen, it was manifested in a well-known ordinance of 1787 in regard to the Northwest Territory. I just read that to you. So Mississippi is trying to make their case on why they should leave and start their own nation to have slaves. So they're saying, yo, the federal government is in the way. So when we go to the next green bracket, it says the federal government has nullified the fugitive slave law. In almost every free state in the Union, it has utterly broken the compact with our fathers pledged their faith to maintain. It advocates Negro equality, socially and politically, and promotes the insurrection and incendiarism in our midst. The last point is it has enlisted its press, its pulpit in schools against us until the whole popular mind of the North is excited and inflamed with prejudice. So do I supposed to believe non-rational thinking black men telling us that, hey, you getting free was really a trick? Or should I believe Mississippi, who was in the thick of it? Do you know South Carolina tried to leave the United States first, and Mississippi was number 2? And said, yeah, I'm with you. We about to form our own country. And Mississippi is on the record saying, nah, the United States government is bogus. They're interfering with the institution of slavery. Just go look at the Northwest Ordinance. You will see it. That's what they said. And they crying about the fugitive slave law too, right? All right. So now, at the same time that the Constitution is being formed, There's this paper going around called the Federalist Papers from October 1787 to April 1788. Three gentlemen write it. John Jay, we know what he owned, James Madison, and Alexander Hamilton. Well, we haven't studied these two fellas yet, Mr. Madison and Mr. Hamilton, so let's do it. James Madison is considered the father of the what? The Constitution. Okay, that's established. James Madison was a strong supporter of the what? American Colonization Society, and served as his what? Third president from 1833 until his death. The ACS was an organization that sought to relocate free African Americans from the United States to Africa. Wait a minute. I thought the Constitution was racist. The person who you call the founding father or the father of the Constitution literally became the president of an organization to help our people get back to Africa if we wanted to. Get up out of here because these white boys down south, they racist. And we going to put up the money and we going to get you up out of here. What y'all talking about? What are you talking about? Who is Alexander Hamilton? Guess what? He was a founding member of the New York Manumission Society established in 1785. Time out. John Jay was the founder, 1785. Oh, snap. Alexander Hamilton and John Jay is homies because they roll in New York in the same organization to free the slaves. John Jay, your first Chief Justice. James Madison in the middle, the father of the Constitution. Guess what? Who Alexander Hamilton was? The first Secretary of the Treasury. So your first president, your first Chief Justice, the founder or father of the Constitution, and your first Secretary of the Treasury were all against slavery. Oh, stay with me, baby. It's going to get better. Now let's go inside this Constitution since it's racist. Let's go to Article 9, Section 1. The migration or importation of such persons, slaves, okay, as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit, shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808. So in other words, we're not going to interfere with slavery until 1808. But a tax or a duty may be imposed on such importation, not exceeding $10 for each person. So this is in the Constitution that took effect in 1789. We're going to let you have slavery, but in 20 years, we may put an end to this thing. The importation of slavery. Well, let's see. What happened on January 1st, 1808? I mean, the very first day of the year. An act prohibiting the importation of slaves was passed by Congress in 1807 and went into effect on January 1, 1808. They stayed true to the game. 1807, that's when they made it. That's 33 years later from 1774. What did Jefferson say in 1774, ladies and gents? It is necessary to exclude all further importations from Africa. And then he turned around in 1808, 33 years later, 34 in 1808, 34 years later, he signs off on the law. You want to talk about longevity? You want to talk about long range pimping, long range goals? Y'all ain't messing with these dudes. They thinking 30 years in advance, bro. And I'm going to show you in the very end when we get to the 33rd degree, they coming for some payback for some 400 year stuff, and it ain't got nothing to do with 400 years of slave. Got nothing to do with that, but I'm going to show you. So in Thomas Jefferson's original draft of the Declaration of Independence, a lot of people don't know this. He had a section that explicitly condemned the transatlantic slave trade, calling it an execrable commerce and accusing King George III of waging cruel war against human nature itself by supporting slavery. If you go read that document, oh, he was in King George behind. You supposed to be the Christian king in all capital letters. He putting Christian in all cap. He's striking at his morality. Yeah, that was there. But look at the very last thing, compromise for unity. And this is what black folks don't think. Black men don't think. To gain support from Southern colonies, the Continental Congress decided to remove this passage, leaving the issue of slavery largely unaddressed in the final declarations. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. If I was there at that time, I would have voted for this. Because what they're saying is, if we try to end slavery in the Declaration of Independence while we're fighting against the British, the Southern colonies are going to join the British. And almost 100 years from now, you know what happened? It was called the Civil War. The South tried to go their own way. So what makes you think that at the height of this thing, they wouldn't have joined the British? If they would have joined the British, we would have never got this country off the ground. So you want to talk about systematic racism? Talk about the systematic removal of slavery, chump. Can I say that? Can I say that bad? All right. So Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution. Who are they talking to? Because we're going to get into this 3/5 thing real quick. They're talking to the House of Representatives and how you will be composed. What qualifies you? Who can you count? So let's go to the very last paragraph. Representative and direct taxes shall be apportioned among several states, which may be included within this union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding the whole number of free persons. You can count all the free persons, including those bound to service of a term of years. So those who are indentured service, count them. Indians not taxed, you want to exclude them, but 3/5 of all other persons. So count 3/5 of the slaves. Okay. Now, who created this? Well, one of the gentlemen who created this, his name was Rufus King. It's called the 3/5 Compromise. This gentleman, Mr. King, was a prominent opponent to slavery. So let's do the math. Let's look at this. The compromise counted 3/5 of each state's slaves towards the state's total population. So in other words, they counted the slave population as 3/5, not 3/5 of a human being. You missed it. Even our brother Malcolm X missed it because he said it. The government saw us as 3/5 of a hog, like worse than the hog, worse than the dog. That was his line. Thought he was dropping bars, but he missed it. And we parrot information sometimes, and sometimes we just make honest mistakes in our interpretation. It's okay. But when it's the truth, we got to correct it and keep it moving. All right. So let's do some simple math, because I know a lot of people can't do math, but it's real simple. If you got 1 million slaves, each representative has 30,000 people he can count to be a representative. Then it moves on to another 30,000. Then you get your second rep and so forth. So 1 million slaves divided by 30,000 per reps equal 33 reps in Congress. Well, if you're representing the slaves, you are a slave master representative, because they don't have them up north. They have them down south. So you would have 33 reps if you just count 1 million slaves. But if you count 3/5 of the population, the slave population, that's 600,000. So 600,000 divided by 30,000 per reps is 20 slave masters in Congress. What just happened? The 3/5 compromise shrank the slave masters' representation in Congress. Even if you were seen as a 3/5 as a human being, and you think that deprived you of being counted, why would you want the slave master to count all of the slaves anyway? That means he's going to have more slave master representation in Congress. You're missing it, because that's how illogical and emotional the black man is. Black woman, I'm telling you, you excused up out of here. I really want to tell you, don't even be giving these dudes no nookie talking any form of white supremacy. What I really want to say. But anyway, the Missouri Compromise of 1820. Let's move on. So we totally blew out the water, the 3/5 spin, and people don't know what they're talking about. This right here, this right here, this right here. The United States drew a line across this whole country. And they said, hey, no slaves will be allowed past north 36 degrees, 30 minutes latitude. That's forget drawing a line in the sand. They drew a line in the whole country. Now, Missouri wants to come in as a slave state. Maine got created to come in as a free state. These dudes ain't playing checkers and chess. They playing states. But when did Missouri apply for state or get statehood? 1821. When did Maine get statehood? 1820. Wait a minute. It's called the Missouri Compromise. And Missouri wanted to come in as a slave state, and they wanted to come in first. In a year and a half prior to them becoming a slave state, y'all admitted Maine is free state to check us. So when I saw this, I said, nah, you know what you got to do? You got to go size this up, bro. Go size it all the way up. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how we need to be thinking. We need to be thinking like how we used to think when we used to be the dope boys and we used to go down south and move work. In other words, I want my brothers from the north to come down and help free your brother from the south. The first state, Delaware, is a slave state. Then Pennsylvania, my Philly brothers came in and they balanced that out. And then from there, we about to go on a run from cards 2 through 10, meaning if you were a red state or free state, you came into the union first. New Jersey, I need y'all to go down there and get my Atlanta brothers. Connecticut and Massachusetts came in. I need y'all to check Maryland and South Carolina. New Hampshire came in, check Virginia. New York, Jay-Z said, according to him, he went down I-95 South and sold dope in North Carolina. So I need my New York brothers to go check out my North Carolina brothers. All right. Rhode Island and Vermont, I need y'all to go check Kentucky and Tennessee. Ohio, hello. I need y'all to go check Louisiana. Indiana, I need you to go free your brothers in Mississippi. Illinois, go free your people in Alabama. All right. Maine, you're going to check Missouri. Now, 11 and 12, the slave powers is like, if they catching on to what's going on, wait a minute. Why are free states coming in the union in our new country more than slave states? So Arizona came in, but my people from Detroit, I need y'all to go free your brothers in Little Rock. Florida and Texas came in as slave states, and then Iowa and Wisconsin came in, and it's about to be a turn. You can see the momentum is turning now. And then California comes in 1850. And I know what happened in 1850 because I love history. 1850, 5 things happened. The first thing was this: California, you will come in as a free state. New Mexico and Utah, okay, that's territorial government. It's not a state yet. But when it do become a state, y'all got a right to pick if y'all want slaves or not. DC slave trade. Hey, DC, stop. Cut it out. No more slavery in DC. Fugitive slave law that we saw Mississippi said the United States government is weak on this. The slaves are getting free and they're running up north, and the Northerners are not giving us our property back. Okay, they're crying about it. We're going to strengthen the fugitive slave law. But in other words, again, when California came in to put a stop to this momentum that we just saw on cards 11 and 12, we made a compromise of 1850 and we said, nope, this is going to be the rules. California is a free state and there will be no more slavery in Washington, D.C. Somebody is playing states, ladies and gentlemen. Grow up and stop playing checkers and chess and learn how to play states. Okay? Go back to 1820, though. There's a piracy law. And the African squadron were part of the United States effort to end the Atlantic trade slave. Why ain't we told about this? Why ain't we told about this? You mean to tell me you got a Navy and you got some boats riding around calling themselves African squadron? Yes. Yes. They were patrolling Africa and Brazil, the whole Atlantic Ocean, making sure that our people wasn't being transported. In fact, it's illegal to transport slaves at that point. James Monroe signed all those things I just named. And here's another thing: the Monroe Doctrine. Ooh, the Monroe Doctrine. He went ham. He told the European powers the American continents are henceforth not to be considered as subjects for future colonization by any European power. You come over here trying to colonize some stuff, it's going to be a problem. Yeah, this is the same dude, same year. Look, 1823, right? So he's the president again of creating this navy, making sure that our people ain't being on the Atlantic slave trade no more, right? And the Missouri Compromise, draw a line in the sand. This is him. You know what else about this fella? James Monroe was a prominent supporter of the American Colonization Society, a group formed in the early 19th century that advocated for the resettlement of free African Americans in Liberia, Africa, as a way to address the issue in slavery in the United States. The capital city of Liberia is called Monrovia, and named after him due to his strong backing of the society. England, France, Spain, the Portuguese, any European power trying to come over here, colonize the people, bringing slaves, we're going to have a problem. James Monroe is like my top 3 all day long. All right. But didn't we see that his predecessor, because this is your 5th president, your predecessor, the 4th president, Mr. James Madison, he became president of the American Colonization Society. So now his homie, James Monroe, also is an advocate of the American Colonization Society. Now, this is what you may not know, ladies and gents. Sierra Leone in 1787 was set up by the British. Liberia was set up in 1822. In other words, British abolitionists, Granville Sharp, Mr. Thomas Clarkson, Henry Thornton, and John Clarkson, founded Sierra Leone to resettle Black loyalists and former slaves in Africa. Okay? You see it. Okay? Then Liberia was founded in 1822 as an outpost for returning free slaves from the Americas. So why don't we never really hear, what a coincidence, they next door to each other, Black people got two nations in Africa. The abolitionists from the British side said Sierra Leone. The abolitionists from America said, here goes Liberia. And that's why the Liberia flag looks like the American flag. And this is 161 years before Israel. This is 126 years before Israel. Okay. So on average, let's just call it $1.50. We got two nation states before Israel even became a state. And that's the thing that we really need to understand and have some sympathy for. I don't want to hear nothing about the bad guy. I'm not talking about the bad guys. I'm talking about the good people. Because you got good people in every ethnic group under every religion. Okay? Now, you got two countries. There go Israel's one. You got two, but we're not taught about it. Okay? So just to give you a little backdrop of something, right? And this is going to come up later. King Philip the Fair of France, he expelled the Jews in 1306, right? In the late 1200s, early 1300s, the Jews is getting pushed out of England, right? But you know what's happening in 1300s for us? We got Mansa Musa, though. We Trinidad James around this joint. Gold all on my watch. Don't believe me, just watch, right? Hold on. You got Mansa Musa in the 1300s, the richest person ever, according to some people, right? All this drip. You kings and queens, but it's another group of people, which is absolutely related, and really it's you, okay? It's really you, but that's another conversation. But it's related to you that you really need to understand. Stop hating on people, man. Stop hating on people. March 2021, Yemen expelled some Jews. In March 2021. That was just, 4 years ago? Y'all still kicking people out of countries? Black folks ain't got kicked out of nowhere in 2021. You know what you was doing in 2021? You was doing what Jim Jones said. Balling. You was balling in 2021. That's what you was doing. You was winning championships. This is 12 countries, and it's way more than this. This is 12 countries that had kicked Jewish people out, man. And what a coincidence. You better understand you got kicked out right along with them in 1492 when you was with the Moors. Now, let me show you something. What happened to the bad people? Let me show you what happened to the bad folks. Financial crisis 2008. Merrill Lynch buys Bank of America. Wells Fargo acquires a few banks. JP Morgan Chase acquires a few banks. Right? 2008 real estate crash, right? What about these people right here? Lehman Brothers. Did the United States government bail Lehman Brothers out? Answer, no. Lehman Brothers was not bailed out during the 2008 financial crisis. You know why, ladies and gentlemen? Here's the spirit. You ready? Because of this right here. They were an investment bank that supported the Confederacy during the Civil War. Hello. That's what happens to the bad people. The bad people don't get no love. Look at the spirit of that. I don't want to hear nothing about conspiracy. Like Bobby said, the conspiracy is to make you think it's a conspiracy. So the bad group of people, your bank will not get bailed out. What a coinky dink. Now, the biggest bank in all of the world is Chase. That's me standing next to what they call that. I forget what they call that thing, but the little statue thingy of him, right? Who is Chase? Salmon P. Chase was a lawyer, abolitionist from the U.S. And U.S. Supreme Court Chief Justice, by the way, was nominated by who? Abraham Lincoln. And Lincoln put him in the Secretary of Treasury as well. Hence, his name is on that as far as the bank goes. Okay. Legal career. He was known as the Attorney General for runaway Negroes, defended many notable slave cases, gave free legal advice to people working the Underground Railroad. Shout out to Brother Richard, the Underground Railroad. Speech. Look at the book. of Salmon P. Chase in the case of the colored woman named Matilda, who was brought before the Court of Common Pleas of Hamilton County, Ohio, aka Cincinnati, by the writ of habeas corpus, March 11, 1837. The number one biggest bank in the world is named after an abolitionist who was on your side. Look at the spirit of that. But then the group of people who wanted slaves, Lehman Brothers, they didn't even get bailed out and totally, we had collapsed the economy before we bailed them out. How about that? Look at the spirit of that. So Chase Bank was named after Salmon P. Chase. Mr. John Thompson founded Chase National Bank in 1877. He named the bank after his friend Salmon P. Chase, who had died 4 years earlier. Just to let you know, I'm not making it up. Now, you want to know something about the IRS? Y'all ready for this? It's going to blow your mind. The IRS, Boutwell, Mr. George Boutwell, abolitionist, is primarily known for his leadership in the formation of the Republican Party and his championship for African-American citizenship and suffrage during the Reconstruction. Go all the way down to the bottom. He was the first commissioner of the what? Internal Revenue. Abraham Lincoln created the IRS. They had to raise money in order to get us free. You need boots, you need guns, you need wagons, you need horses, you need food, you need clothes, you need bullets, you need everything. It costs money. The government don't print money just because it wants to print money. That's not how that works. They had to sell bonds. They had to raise money. So he created a revenue department. The IRS is literally created to help us get out of slavery. Hello. There needs to be some type of diplomatic relations done. Man, give me the sharp ones. I'll start naming some names. Give me the sharp ones who understand law, and we can put a body politic together to run the play. Because this is what needs to happen. You know what Mr. Boutwell said, allegedly? This is what he said. Go up where it said for South Carolina and Florida. He even urged Lincoln to dedicate the states of South Carolina and Florida for American blacks. I have heard the city of Brooklyn, there was a riot between free white laborers and colored men. So the solution is maybe we just go give those black folks, let them go back down south to where they rightfully belong and let them have those two states. What? Florida and South Carolina should be yours, according to the first director and abolitionist of the IRS. I love the IRS. Get yours, because I understand what it takes. Money needs to move and to do some things. Because I'm not moving no poop, even though they're not responsible for the poop in my house. That's my municipal government. But I'm not doing none of that stuff. It takes infrastructure. So y'all ready to follow the money? See, they always follow the money, follow the money, follow the money. It's the Rockefeller. You're lying. And I should have put that up here. If Rockefeller was really running things, then why was he ducking the government and had to go to court? You run things. What you putting him in court for? Y'all lying. Follow the money? Okay, let's follow the money. On a dollar bill, George Washington. What did he do? Here's another thing George Washington did that y'all didn't see. 1794, he made it illegal to export slaves out the country. This is a brilliant strategy because if you're paying attention and you know history, now that's saying slavery ended in 3 phases. Stop the exportation, don't send niggas out. Stop the importation, no slaves allowed in. And then in the domestic aspect, that was Mr. Lincoln, Jefferson, and Washington in reverse order. So this is another thing George Washington did, which we saw him prior in 1774, sign a document that says no slaves. 20 years later, he's signing something that says, nope, don't export the slaves out. If you're going to go the war, and you can kind of calculate that there's probably going to be a war with the South, then I think we shouldn't export the slaves out because they might end up being our allies in a civil war in the future. Guess what? That happened. It became the what? United States colored troops. We end up joining the Union and coming back down south shooting at the slave master. It was no better reparations than that, in my opinion. You got guns and went down south and start shooting at the slave master. Sign me up. On this $2 bills, Mr. Jefferson, he signed the law that says it's illegal to import slaves. Your $5 bills, Abe Lincoln. So I'm going to give you something about Abe Lincoln that you don't know. The Homestead Act of 1862 allowed citizens to claim 160 acres of government land in exchange for living and improving it. Look at the eligibility, y'all. U.S. citizens or intended citizens, at least 21, never fought against the US government. Mr. Lincoln, the Civil War starts in 1861. So if the Confederates are fighting you, are you telling me, Mr. Lincoln, that they're not allowed to get any of this land? Yes, sir. That's what Mr. Lincoln is telling you. Mr. Lincoln, who are you talking to about intended citizens? Well, that would be you, sir. That would be you, black man. We got land for you. So since they want to go to war and they want to act like that this ain't their country no more, and these territories ain't part of the United States, I'm allowing y'all to get some land, and we ain't gonna allow that slave master to get none. Y'all can't touch Abe. Who on a $10 bill? Mr. Hamilton. Well, we saw that Mr. Hamilton was a founding member of the New York Manumission Society. So he good. Let's go to the $50 bill. Grant. Grant wins the Civil War. This is what you may not know about Grant. Grant also created something called the Ku Klux Klan Act, the Enforcement Act. They beat out the first Ku Klux Klan. That's why it's the second Klan and the third Klan, because the first Klan got they behind stumped out by Grant. And then under Grant, you get your first black U.S. Congress members. Hiram Revels from Mississippi, Edward Blanche from, I think he's South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken, House of Rep. You get your first black senators inside of Congress under Grant. Sidebar. Do you know, black man, you got a right to vote before the white woman did by 50 years? What kind of white supremacy will allow the black man to vote before his white woman votes? See, this is where black folks start defending the slave master white supremacy ideology. You mean to tell me this dude, the Confederate, was so simple-minded and stupid? He's going to war dying. His sons is going to war dying. They don't even have common sense that they're dying to say, I need to let my woman vote and let her be in power. That is weakness. That is weakness. Always look for the weakness in the white supremacy, because you end up winning. This dude don't even have common sense to empower his woman. The black man can vote before the white woman votes. 50 plus years. Benjamin Franklin, good. We already know he was the founder of the Pennsylvania Abolitionist Society. There's one denomination that we have to check, ladies and gentlemen. Follow the money, the $20 bill. Andrew Jackson did what? He went to the battle of what's called Fort Negro in Florida, and he killed black folks, and then he marched some people back into the United States and put them back into slavery. Wait a minute. Thomas Jefferson said it's illegal to import slaves in 1808. So what you did, Mr. Jackson, actually broke the law. There go your grounds for something legally within the United States. Okay. But this dude ain't no good. He the only one that ain't no good on all the money denominations. But you know what the mystic chords of memory and the Great Spirit says? Move that dude off of there and put Harriet Tubman on there. Hello. Why? Why do you think that? Can I can do the Minister Jew? Huh? Do the Hulk Hogan while I put my hand to my ear? Huh? The one dude on the denomination that was against black folks, because everybody else was for you. I just showed you the money. They want to put Harriet Tubman in his place. What is the spirit that is moving that? That's the spirit of truth. That's the spirit of victory. We already won and we don't even know it. So let's talk about Harriet Tubman, which was a Union soldier. And she was an enlisted Union soldier for Abraham Lincoln, and nobody talks about that part. Salute to my Colonel James Montgomery, who gave Harriet Tubman guns. Facts. James Montgomery is the one who gave her guns from Ohio. Got to say that. Here go Abraham Lincoln, Secretary of the State. Since y'all want to say Lincoln is a racist, I wish you would try that with me. Yeah, because I know where you're going to go, and you ain't going to read the next sentence that came behind that. That's how I know it's that Polly want a cracker type of consciousness, right? You really don't know this. You're just hearing stuff. But anyway, the Secretary of State, William Seward, this is a statue with him and Harriet Tubman. This is Abraham Lincoln, Secretary of State. Why are they together? You know why? Because Mr. William Seward sold a home to Harriet Tubman. Look at that beautiful, I don't know if that's colonial or Victorian style, right? And his house was used, like bullet point number 3, Tubman used Seward's house as a station on the Underground Railroad. Seward sold Tubman the home so she could bring her family to Auburn from Canada. Another legend says The Seward family used to watch Harriet Tubman's nieces. Her family is why she go back down south and free the slaves. This is Abraham Lincoln's man. Salmon P. Chase is Abraham Lincoln's pick, but yet he racist. Shut up. So y'all ready to get into a little bit of this mystery of the 33rd degree? Y'all ready? 1738, Pope Clement XII bans Freemasonry. 1738, Pope Clement XII bans Freemasonry. The Catholic Church. 1738 just so happened to be the year that Frederick the Great, King of Prussia, shout out to North Philly, when you go a little, not north, but more of east of Philly, I'm sorry, west, right? You got the King of Prussia Mall. So anyway, he becomes a Mason and he's the founder of the 33rd degree, Frederick the Great. Okay, same year that the Catholics put a ban on Freemasonry. Now, King Philip IV, we're going to go back a couple hundred years. King Philip IV of France and Pope Clement V collaborated to arrest and suppress the Knights Templars in 1307. And they killed the last Grand Master of the Knights Templar, was Jacques de Molay. Okay. In 1314, they killed him. Okay. Now, Pope Clement V went against the Knights Templar. Pope Clement XII ends Freemasonry or bans it. When you name yourself after the Clements, the Benedicts, you're naming yourself because that ideology of Pope Fathers fits your ideology. So Clement XII is right in line with Clement V. You understand? Okay. Now, the Knights Templar in Masonry dress like this on the left. But isn't that very synonymous to how our brother, dear noble Marcus Garvey was dressing himself? Huh? So Frederick the Great creates the 33rd degree. Y'all ready? I'm about to give y'all the inside game. I'm gonna give you some of the ritual work. So, okay, me and Rich, we got our own little lodge. So I go to the door. Rich say Demole. My response is Hiram Abiff. Then Rich responds is Frederick. Then I say of Persia. Token mean handshake. There ain't none. So now let's get into a historical discourse and a lecture of what this degree is about, the 33rd. The degree of the Knight Kadosh is the most awesome and important. In this degree, you solemnly bound yourself without restriction to destroy an order of men for crimes committed several centuries ago. Hello? You're binding yourself to destroy an order of men for crimes committed several centuries ago, 400 years ago, without regard for the common principles of humanity and the laws of your country. You got to get about it because we want some clap back for what they did. Let's keep on going. They tell you in the lecture, Philip the Fair, King of France, grew jealous of the Knights Templar, which jealousy turned into hatred because they embraced the cause of Boniface VIII in disputes he had with the king. Philip never forgave the Templars for the conduct in these matters. On the 13th of October, 1309, he arrested all the Templars. Okay. Let's just go down. Let me see. On October the 1st, 1312, the Council of Vienna banished the order in agreement with the Pope and gave the greater parts of their possessions to the Knights Hospitallers of St. John's of Jerusalem, Knights of Rhodes, now called the Knights of Malta, which were established about 1120 when Hieronymus was Pope. The Knights Kadosh were called Knights Templar, but after the massacre by Philip, the few who escaped changed their name and appearance to avoid persecution or from the enemies until their numbers increased and they could take arms for their just and lawful rights. They ceased wearing the black cordon and red cross and substituted a large blood-colored cordon, right? And in about the Masonic year of 5767, so minus 4,000 years, that's 1767, investigations were made in Paris, Treaty of Paris, Benjamin Franklin, remember, that's about to come up, to prove that the Masons with the Knights, with the title Knights of Kadosh was Templars. If the discovery succeeded, the order would have been destroyed. In consequence, it was determined in Grand Council by communication with Berlin and Paris that in the future, they should assume the title, drumroll, Knights of the Black and White Eagle. I know that last sentence just went over your head. So I'll just this is why you see the black man in Masonic poses in this the white Masons in this combination of them. In the order of the Knights of Malta could keep the possessions they illegally obtained and were obliged to exterminate the order of the temple. I'm gonna go all the way to the end. But if a sovereign power declared war, we are bound by solemn obligation we has taken. And if our business permits, we are bound to join the army of their enemies and use our talents both in cabinet and field to exterminate that order. Talking about the Knights of Malta, which is the Catholic version of the Knights Templars now, in a sense, right? That we may again possess the rich and strong places belonging to the Templars by right. All right. I really should go up and read that in white. All right. Because they tell you that going on the Mediterranean on business should be met by accident. The Mediterranean, that's Moorish Spain. The Moors had control of all that. The Moors ruled Sicily that sits in the Mediterranean. The Moors had a lot of those cities that was up in there. The night of the black and white eagle, ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. There's about to be a merger. It's already been a merger. Okay. So the 33rd degree want that smoke with the Catholic Church. And if the Catholic Church ever go to war, the 33rd degrees are to go and join the Catholic Church enemies to get their clap back. That's what the 33rd degree is about. Don't fall for this new age Illuminati conspiracy talk. I just showed you the ritual work known as the historical discourse of what this degree is about. They want that smoke with the Catholic Church. So they said in a Masonic year 5767 and 1767. In 1767, guess what? Benjamin Franklin visited France. What? What are you doing there? At the same time, he was already a Mason. What's going on? What? You would later come back, as we saw, to the United States, and then you would start creating organization to free the Black Eagle, aka Black people. You know what's up with the Catholic Church? The Catholic Church created their own Masonic body called the Knights of Columbus, and the higher orders of the Knights of Columbus. They got the Order of the Alhambra. The Alhambra's emblem is the red castle that was Moorish Spain. That red castle, Alhambra, mean red castle, that's surmounted on top of that crescent moon, and they put a cross in the middle because in 1492 we surrendered. We didn't fight. We surrendered Moorish Spain, Granada, to the Christian powers. And then this is how they come back and they go in within their own fraternity, within the Catholic rite, and pretty much gloat about that victory. Now, see, for me, now I understand. Listen, the Catholic saints, I got some recordings on my Patreon about the Catholic saints. You got some dudes that was highly, highly mystical. I'm not talking about the mystical science. I'm talking about the political side today. The political side, I don't rock with. The mystical side, I rock with. But see, I got my ancestry, and my bloodline runs through Moorish Spain and all of Western Africa. King, with Mali and all that, and Mansa Musa and all that. Like my bloodline is over there, all where Islam is, all through that. And if you understand mystical Islam anyway, it's a continuation of Christianity, whereas Christianity don't acknowledge Islam. And it's not the other way around. This is why when you had the golden age in Moorish Spain, everybody was enlightened. Anyway, just showing you how they get down and what this is about. Okay, here goes some books if you really want to get on the study. Some great references when Scotland was Jewish, and she's dropping evidence, archaeology. This ain't no philosophy. This is what's on the rolls. Okay, Jews and Muslims in British colonial America, the early Jews and Muslims of England and Wales, and the Melungeons, which Abraham Lincoln was, the last tribe in America. And she's making all of these connections to African Moorish people, Jewish people, and European people mixing together, and Freemasonry playing a role in organizing the importation of these people who are now changing up what they look like We seen that in the 33rd degree, changing up some things and some intermixing started happening so you can fly under the radar to escape persecution. See, things got to a point where you had to start mixing bloodlines to survive. That's real art of war. But some great books to read is right here. Um, Salute to my man Mike P. Hope he don't mind me showing this. And I'm about to wrap it up with this. You know, we're pretty soon got like one more slide or so. But listen, man, one of the highest levels you can do is get into your soul's memory and what's going on. I got a mystic core to memory, and I ain't gonna say who, but I'll say this: within this whole study of the Civil War, when I was looking into it, he got black people a bank. He was born on my birthday, got married on my son's birthday, and died on my mama's birthday. I said, what the hell is this? I said, how you gonna be born on my birthday? I'm just doing research. And I'm looking to this. He got black people a bank, born on my birthday. So we got the same birthday, died on my mama's birthday, and got married on my son's birthday. That's a mystic core to memory. And I'm saying this to say that it's deeper than color anyway. So this piece my man wrote, I can't wait till he put this out, man. Phenomenal. So he may be, I'm quite sure he's in the chat because he loved his channel. You know what I'm saying? A group reincarnation study right here. When we were Mozart's, dope case, man. And this dude, when I was reading this and I see his mama and Mozart's mama, I damn near came to tears and fell out my chair. Phenomenal work. We got to go, and when I'm breaking this up this way as I end, because we got to learn how to go deeper than skin surface. It's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. All right. So some of the stuff that I like to do on a whole nother note in my Patreon on July the 4th, remember Mystic Cores of Memory, July the 4th, as I showed y'all on July 4th, I made a post on purpose on July 4th. And I was saying something about the 18th, that we was going to do something with the moon. Okay. See, how we going to say we gods? See, this is what I like to get on. If we gods, we should be able to do godly things. So I said on 7/18, we're going to do something at 11/11. I'm going to show you what we're going to do using the moon. Well, on the 18th, okay, you know what? A story broke that said, hey, another immediate mass black hole was discovered in the center of our galaxy. Yeah. Why you think I got the moon in front of the galaxy? Because a group of us in the Patreon, we was like, yeah, I'm down. Let's go see if our thoughts can literally give birth to stars. God. Why you playing with white supremacy? We giving birth to stars in the galaxy. Literally. How about on July 29th when I made the post? And I said, hey, on 8/27, we're going to get busy with Jupiter when it's in the same spot in front of the galactic center on the other side. And what happened on August 28th? Look, I said on August 27th, we're going to do this. And I said it on July 29th. What happened the very next day? Astronomers discover a new odd radio circle near the center of our galaxy. I can show you the presentation I did. It was called God is a Radio. In fact, I dropped some of it here with Brother Rich on his channel. God is a Radio. Because we're talking about the galactic center emits radio waves. That's a frequency. That's a sound. But you can send thought to this center and you can start creating phenomenon in this reality. That's better than some little funky 33rd degree in the form of conspiracy. You give birth to stars. Literally. Now, there's some things that you can do on the earth plane with this kind of information as well, but I don't show that no more. Minister Dude told me to put it up and don't show people that. I said, okay, I oblige. You're right. I'm not going to show people that, but I can show you how to create it personally for you. But you're going to have to dedicate yourself and be serious about it and not curious about it. Okay. So if you want to get at me, man, hit me up. Patreon. Right. And this backslash rather, Noble Anpu, man. That's it for me, bro. Rich.
All right. Hold up. Hold up. Give me a second, family. I'm trying to get back on the screen. Okay. All right. I want to get to a lot of things you said. Very controversial. I've been reading some of the comments throughout the presentation. I want to give the family an opportunity. I want to get right, Ample. I'm gonna be honest. I want to get right to because we got about
It's all good, bro.
You got
Whatever you
about
want to
30.
do.
You got about 30 more minutes, Sample?
Hey, bro, we listen. We can do this all night if you want to. You know
All
what I'm
right.
saying?
We're
Shit.
gonna get. I want the family an opportunity to ask you questions and to give their comments or whatever. So we're gonna go right to the Q&A, family. Um, let's start. Give me some questions in the chat. This is my brother Noble Anpu. Brother been around a long time, long time. Shout out to Minister Jew, the other half of the priesthood. All right, let's go. Let's get to some questions. You know what I think?
Oh, I know. I should have brung me a raccoon hat because I know I'm probably
Yeah,
gonna
well,
be.
yeah. You got.
I'm gonna be a coon. I'm gonna be a
Yeah,
coon.
they didn't say. Well, let me ask you this. All right, so this is one comment I seen during your presentation that I said I want to bring up to you. You're leaving out a lot of information. All you did was elevate Europeans. So all you really did was provide his story, not our story. Based on that, let me ask you this, Ampu. Based on that, are you telling half the truth and conveniently leaving out another part of the truth just to create a certain narrative, my brother? Is what you're saying
No,
right, but
no,
you're just
no.
purposely leaving some
Listen,
things out?
listen. I showed who the people were, what organizations that they founded, right? It's not about elevating Europeans. But you know what? But cool. I'll even take that, Nicholas Bay. Elevate your allies, homie. See, this is what I be saying. Are you telling me you so deep in your Islam that you can't acknowledge who your allies are? All this was showing you who your allies were. So if that's your ally, bro, shut up. Respectfully. Right? So that's your ally who went to war for you, who died for you. Abe Lincoln took a bullet to the back of the head, chilling with his wife watching the play. Like that ain't no play right there, right? So there's some people who literally lost their lives to help us. So I'm just showing who did what on our behalf. You see what I'm saying? So I ain't conveniently leaving nothing out. I don't care nothing about your slave master. That ain't my story to tell. See what that sounds like to me is you want to not tell what the master did to us. Respectfully, F your master. Your master got his butt beat. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm not leaving nothing out because I don't care about that side of the story. So if you want to say you want to hear more doom and gloom and more slavery or whatever the case may be where some Europeans wasn't on our side, I don't care about that. Tonight's topic is who were your allies? Who put it into slavery? Who did it? Who put the work in? Who clapped who? Who shot who? William T. Sherman burned Atlanta down. That's why Atlanta City Seal is a phoenix bird coming out of fire. And the slogan is called Resurgence, which is Latin, which means to rise again. Why? Because William T. Sherman burned it down. William T. Sherman is the one that passed Special Field Order number 20, no, number 15, which you later known as 40 acres in the mule. He did that as a war measure. I'm burning this city. Y'all want to go to war with us and y'all want to have slaves? You want to lead the nation? Okay, I'm going to burn it down. How about that? And he told General Hood from the Confederates, hey, get the women and children out of here tomorrow because I'm shooting up everything and I'm burning up everything. Get them out. See, I come from that cloth and went to boot camp around that dude's city. Okay? So I'm talking about your allies, man. I ain't trying to hear nothing else. So that's how I'm going to answer that.
Got you. Let's keep this thing moving. Somebody says, what about the Bavarian Illuminati?
The Bavarian Illuminati. If you look into them in 1776, the history says they got stumped out too. Right? And so I don't know much about who was who within it. The record says they tried to open up somewhat of an offset of Masonic body promoting the Enlightenment ideas as a philosophical branch. Their goal was to put philosophy and religion inside of government. In the powers that be that was against them literally ended them. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I thought this was the big bad Illuminati. How did they get ended? That's what the record says. And again, and I bring up because we all heard Rockefeller was the Illuminati. Okay, Rockefeller didn't want no smoke from Mr. Teddy Roosevelt. When Teddy Roosevelt, that's why Roosevelt is on Mount Rushmore. Teddy Roosevelt came in and said, "Listen, I'm not bowing down to Wall Street. I'm the head honcho here." Teddy Roosevelt, he was killing elephants and taking pictures. Like he was like on some what you perceive to be alpha male stuff, right? But my point is, Rockefeller had to go on a run, and they kept trying to give Rockefeller subpoenas, and Rockefeller is ducking the court. Which ultimately, what happened was they end up breaking up his companies. Unbeknownst to them, when they break up the companies, that actually became more profitable for him. But that is not something that Rockefeller wanted to do. He was ducking the law. So my point only in mentioning that is, when y'all tell me that Rockefeller is Illuminati, then why is he ducking the law? I thought the Illuminati ran the law, but Rockefeller was on the run. It was the other way around. So something's not all the way checking out. And I'm not saying, let me be clear, I'm not saying these people are good, and I'm not saying they're bad. All I'm saying is, something seems funny. Y'all got smashed out in your own country, and then the people who y'all say was members and running stuff in society, the government is actually against them on antitrust suits. Something ain't adding up. So that's all I got for the Bavarian Illuminati, man. That ain't my expertise.
No, definitely got you. Jay McDonald wants to know, who are our allies in 2025?
Man, good question, man. So 2025, man, it's all about corporate. It's been like that for a minute. It's about free enterprise. It's about money. So really, and I should have put this slide in here, right? In my opinion, right now, as of right now, your Elons, your Trumps, the ones who is like sticking to the old code of, hey, listen. We not about to get so crazy. Well, we got not a chief judge, we got a Supreme Court justice woman, first black woman, get up here and say she don't know what a woman is. Yo mama. Like, we literally got to a point in the United States where we act like we don't know what a woman is. I know what a woman is because I want some of that thing tonight. Okay, so I know what a woman is. I come from one, right? Like, we got so crazy we don't know what a woman is. Like, we literally got to that point, right? So the truth is, the allies is the Trumps, and Trump's son got something going on with some gold stuff that you need to be on. It's the ones that's making money moves, man. It's the ones that's setting up stuff where it makes it easier for you. See, I'm a real estate investor, right? And so when Trump came in the first term and they doing stuff like, hey, yo, listen, you ain't got to pay no taxes on your bread. As long as you keep this for 5 years, you can pay a less tax. Hold it for 7, it's going to be even less tax. But if you hold it for 10, I'm out your pocket, homie, because you keeping money in the game. So your allies right now is the ones that's on the progression of your dollar, and not the ones that say, hey, we want to take that away from you. We want to tax you and take more from you. See, I own properties in the hood, and then I got new build stuff that's going on that's not nowhere near hood, right? And I know when I go to the hood, there's a different vibration that's there, right? Totally different people throwing out trash and stuff. And I'm the one that's outside cleaning it up, right? Because I just don't like my neighborhood as far as my properties looking a certain way, right? And there's a mindset that's there. And that mindset that's there, these people are supported by democratic policies, just to be blunt with you. They're supported by democratic policies. And so what happens when you start giving people too many handouts, they don't have the motivation to go get it. And when they don't own nothing, they don't have a sense of ownership, they start destroying stuff. But in the meantime, guess what? Who pay the property taxes? Who pay for the local library to come in down here? That's on my property report. So I'm for the person that's saying, listen, homie, keep your money. We're not going to tax you. You don't have to cater and pay for these people to live here for free like that. That's not your job, right? So this is where you have to get involved in your local politics. And that's what you really got to search out. What are you doing in your local arena, and who identifies with you in your local politics for you to get things done?
All
All
right.
right. So your local politicians is your real ally because that's where you're playing the game at. If you ain't on the Amazon level, national level, you got to go to the local level where you at.
Okay, okay. Next question, Anpu. At what point did the infiltration of these organizations and brotherhoods cause them to lose focus on the black struggle, and did the death of those people lead to the institutional wars of today?
The way I see that question is, at what point did the infiltration of these organizations and brotherhood cause them to lose focus on the black struggle? I'm gonna tell you where United States of America, just as the country. So I'm not talking about Masonic bodies and stuff. 1877, after the Civil War is won, there is a unofficial documented compromise. It's known as the Compromise of 1877. Rutherford B. Hayes from Ohio, Republican governor. He wins by one electoral vote. It's about to be Civil War Part 2. So we dropped the ball in Reconstruction, right? We dropped the ball when and I'm not blaming this individual, but I'm just letting you know he was the chairman of the bank. We had our own bank called the Freedmen and Savings Trust Company. We had our own bank. Frederick Douglass was the chair of the bank. It was mismanagement inside of the bank amongst our own people. And so I don't necessarily look at infiltration as a distraction per se. I don't have no information on infiltration far as they losing it. What happens is I think we have a lack of, even if you get infiltrated, you know what that tells me? And you got taken up, you were weak. So there's a lack of, once again, a military mindset and a strong social order to protect and preserve the thing that you're moving towards. And the truth be told, here's the thing. Bobby said the conspiracy is to make you think it's a conspiracy. What if we got it wrong about certain popular organizations? What if we got it wrong about Black Freemasons, in the sense that I know in Philadelphia, we got an old folks tower where senior living is taken care of. We take care of old folks. I know for a fact in Masonic meetings, before we get busy on degree work, it may say, hey, Brother Charles, the sister, the wife or the widow of Brother Charles, we paid her X amount of dollars this month out of the treasury. And they taking care of their brother's widows, like the Quran says you're supposed to do. So they're actually doing work, but they ain't out here with a loud mouth, but they're doing local work, old folks home, hospital work, taking care of the brother who was in the lodge, died, making sure his wife got enough money to be taken care of, right? But what I see is more of a lack of a strong masculine militant dominance that's there to move us forward, and not necessarily an infiltration per se and whatnot. So you always had infighting, bro. When you go back to Moorish Spain, right? Cordova, Spain was attacked by, well, in Granada, which is more southern, Granada, Spain allied up with the Christians to attack his Muslim brothers in Cordoba. And the Christians took Cordoba, right? And then while Granada was still standing, and eventually fell to those same Christians who he used. So there's always been infighting. When you go back in that period of Moorish Spain, this is why you got all these different dynasties, the Almohads, the Almoravids, the Fatimids, all these different dynasties. Everybody is fighting each other. And the same stands true more so today than it does of some type of infiltrate. You ain't got to infiltrate Negroes, because Negroes ain't no threat. To be honest with you, you ain't got to infiltrate them. You're not organized enough. You're not even strong enough to do anything. You know how we know that? Nobody's stopping Dr. Umar for building the school. You won't get behind it like that. Or possibly they think he'd do some nigger stuff and not, mess it up. Right? You're not a threat like that. And you never have been like that. And that's just the truth.
All right, let me keep this thing moving, Ampool. We're gonna get to super chat questions. Shout out to Shockwave. If they were our allies, why didn't they fulfill Sherman's FO number
See
15?
this.
Wow,
See this is.
hold up, Empu, let me finish for the people in the audience. Hold up.
Uh-huh.
While federal troops were in South, instead of disarming us after the Civil War and ushering in 100 years of Jim Crow.
Perfect question.
All
And this
right.
is what I'm talking about. Shockwave truth. You don't know your history. You got a piece of it. The people who rescinded Sherman's field order number 15, Andrew Johnson, the vice president of Abraham Lincoln, who became president. Where was Andrew Johnson from? He was a slave owner from Tennessee. So now ask the question, well, why would Abraham Lincoln get a slave owner vice president? Because we need to win the South, homie, to get in power. So I'm going to mix this ticket up. My first president, Vice President Hannibal Hamlin, he from Maine. He an abolitionist. But now that we beefing and it's the war, and the war is not over. This 1864 second election, the war ain't over. I still need to be in power to see these plans. The 13th Amendment ain't even here. You ain't even free by law. And if I don't get in power, you going back to slavery because you still a slave, right? You ain't even going back. You still will be a slave, right? So let me mix this ticket up a little bit. Andrew Johnson, slaveholder from Tennessee. He's a war Democrat, meaning he got Southern sympathies, but he ain't got enough balls to join the Confederacy. Because if that's the case, he would have been in the Congress with the Confederate States of America, but he wasn't. So let me go get somebody to appease the psyche of my enemy. Look at the art of war strategy of that. So Lincoln gets popped. He becomes in power, but he's a Southern Democrat. So he rescinds Special Field Order number 15. So when you say if they were our allies, Andrew Johnson wasn't your ally. Frederick Douglass said it. He said, man, when I was at Lincoln's second inauguration, Andrew Johnson gave me a look and he must didn't know that I saw it or the way that he was looking for that quick little millisecond before he realized, then he tried to change his stare. But that man ain't no good. This is Frederick Douglass. So you don't know who your ally is. You see what I'm saying? And so now what happens is really after Grant, again, I just said the 1877 election with Rutherford B. Hayes, a compromise has to be given, bro. Pay attention to this. Rutherford B. Hayes wins the election by one electoral vote, and they want to recount this because the Democrats down south is like, yo, y'all still in the election. We about to start shooting and we going back to war. Nobody wants to go to war. Nobody wants that, right? So a compromise was given that said, listen, all right, listen, this is what we're going to do. The Civil War is over. That ended in 1865. It's now 1877. What I'm going to do is withdraw the federal troops from down here. Because what happened? After the Civil War, we took 5 war generals and we said, hey, yo, you're going to be over Georgia. You're going to be over this place right here. And we broke the South up into 5 districts and we took one war general and placed them over that district. So now the South, after the Civil War, they got somebody down there that's looking over who just beat they behind from the Union side. Right? So now y'all ain't doing no slavery. We down here and we assisting the freedmen bureaus and we getting black people established. That's what we doing. So to not have a rerun on the election and possibly lose, because it's the Republican Party that's pushing everything for us and possibly lose power, we just gonna withdraw federal troops. So now to your second point, when you said that ushering in 100 years of Jim Crow, that's what happened. And that's where you nailed the government at because, y'all didn't listen. Who didn't they listen to? Y'all didn't listen to Charles Sumner, who got beat up by Preston Brooks from South Carolina, right? Charles Sumner, the guy who got beat up from Massachusetts, got beat up by the South Carolina congressman. You didn't listen to Sherman's brother, all right, who was writing legislation. You didn't listen to Benjamin Wade. You didn't listen to Thaddeus Stevens from Pennsylvania. You didn't listen to what's they're called the radical Republicans. The radical Republicans was saying, Black people was free and women can vote at the same time. And the regular white man was like, what are you talking about? Women can vote. It was too much for him. The radical Republicans said, listen, if anybody got the rank of a lieutenant inside of the Confederate government coming back into the United States, they're not allowed to operate in any form of government. That's too much. They already went against us and started shooting, and they rose to the rank of lieutenant. They're really serious and they don't like the United States of America. They shouldn't be allowed in government. But they thought that was too radical. Lincoln wasn't that radical. Lincoln was the person who would try to play the middle ground because nobody wants war. And he was right, because guess what? He ended up catching a bullet in his head next to his wife watching a theater play. So it's not that they wasn't for us. You had to learn how to give and take and back up. But that's what they chose to do. But they shouldn't have done it. You understand what I'm saying? They should have just kept hammering, and they didn't hammer because nobody wants to go to war again. So I think to a degree, the question is a little misconstrued a little bit, because it's not the United States that's instituting Jim Crow. That's the Southern states that's instituting Jim Crow. That's who did that. They said, okay, all right, you can vote in 1870, 15th Amendment. Okay, well, we about to start passing literacy tests and things like that. And then you got to wait 95 years to 1965. Then the Baines-Johnson come with the Voters' Right Act of 64, 65 to vote, but you already had the right to vote via the 15th Amendment. You can nail them right here with that. That's the game plan. You understand what I'm saying? You can nail them with that, like, yo, you dropped the ball. And that's just the truth. You dropped the ball. But these people who fumbled the ball are not the same people who instituted Jim Crow. That was your enemy, homie.
Anpu, this is a question that I know you probably get often on here. People ask people who are talking about history. They want to know, how can this old history help the USA and blacks today?
Great question. It should have been at the beginning. See, the whole purpose of this, Gizmo, is I'm under the perception that black folks think that at the inception of the country, the odds were stacked against us on purpose. So that's why I go to the beginning of the formation of the country and show you with the first president, first vice president, first secretary of state, first chief justice, first IRS director. All of these people are actually for you. So it's like we got a mental block. So we're technically now in 2019, 400 years removed from slavery, 1619, first slaves in Jamestown, Virginia. And let's just count that for simple math. We're 400 plus years removed from that, but we walk around here as if we still in that, right? Like racism, systematic racism, and that, and rightfully so, we got a slave gene from post-traumatic slave disorder. So my thing is, if we know this history from a different lens, like, oh, wait a minute, hold on, I ain't know that. Really, in the beginning, what? These dudes said no slaves allowed in the new territory before they even had a constitution. Mississippi said the United States government has always been interfering with the institution of slavery. What? Hold on. It ain't that deep that I thought it was. Woo, I'm free from that. So the goal is to take that rusty lock off our mind in that timeline in which we self-impose to a degree those conditions upon our own psyche and in our own being. So that's the purpose of it, bro. So once you can free up from that, like, oh, see, for me, it's like, it was simple. It was like, oh, it was like, shit, man, I can breathe. Okay, let me go. I can go get money. They ain't gonna come knock it down. They ain't gonna come take it. Right? I ain't gotta be this poor righteous teacher. You understand what I'm saying? With no motivation to do it because the white man is all a trick any goddamn way, and you know, all that kind of stuff. No. We good. They got stumped out. Oh, snap. They got stumped out for real. This dude stumped them out. So that's the purpose, bro. That's how I think it can help. You know what I'm saying? It removes that rusty lock from self-imposing that stuff and self-inflicting that stuff upon us.
Okay. What do you think about this comment? Patriarchal needs matriarchal to balance.
Yeah, man. Out. Yeah, I love that. You know what I'm saying? That's my yacht. What that looks like, you know what I'm saying, is, you know, up for conversation in a sense. We had that Kemet primarily, you know what I'm saying? Absolutely. We need that. We need to have balance. That's what makes the universe move. You know, so absolutely. I ain't got no problem with that.
A lot of people did. I noticed when you were talking, a lot of people did not like what you said about the IRS,
Oh yeah, I know,
and
man. You don't like the IRS. I
and
know, man.
they felt Ampu, even if the original creation of it was good. Right now, the IRS is no good for us. What's your thoughts on?
Well, okay. So listen, you can take that, but all I'm saying is, at the inception point, the IRS is founded to help us get out of a situation, raise the revenue, and guess what? You weren't making money at that time that the IRS came in, right? So let's go tax these white folks, right? Whether they be for us, meaning they're for slaves, or they mean for freedom, or they be against us, against freedom. We taxing everybody to get this money to free these black folks. That's a good thing in its inception. The founder is saying, where the first director is saying, hey, listen, I also think black folks should be given South Carolina and Florida as their own thing. See, you know what we need to do? Instead of creating a 51st state, we need 51st districts all throughout the United States, like Chinatowns in certain places. See, this is what I'm saying. The true real body politic got to come out and figure it out. But it's, see, if we say move to Florida, y'all gonna scream it's too hot. If we say move to Chicago, because we got the Nation of Islam there, it's already a nation. It's, that city is a nation within the nation in a sense, right? You know, we from various gang nations or whatever. You're gonna say it's too cold. So what you're gonna have to do is, we say move to Atlanta, you're gonna say, well, it's too whatever, right? So what you have to do is, well, let's create a 51st district that goes throughout the continental United States. And when you are a member of the district, then these certain things of, like, let's say you're non-taxed, right? Or whatever the case may be, these certain benefits now apply to you in a sense. But with the IRS in real time today, right? There's a book by the name, the author is by the name, it's called Tax Free Wealth. Tom Wheelwright. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, This is Tax Man. We studied his books years ago when I had the Family Wealth Club, when we got on our real estate journey and started getting some money, right? He said, if the IRS code book, the whole book, say it's 1,000 pages, 800 pages within the code tells you how to keep your money. Now, let me tell you, let me tell you from a real estate investor, because this is what I do. There's something called a 1031 tax exchange. Go look it up. It's called IRS Rule 1031. Rule 1031 says, listen, if you got real estate and you about to sell it and cash out, we're going to tax you. But this is how you can keep your money. You have to identify a property that you want to buy within 45 days. And then the remaining 135 days, because it's a 180-day timeline, the remaining 135 days after you identified the property, you have to close on it in 135 days. Okay. So identify in 45, close in 135. That's a 180-day window that you got to set it up a certain way. And then what that tells the IRS is, when you sold that building, you didn't take your capital gains and you went in and went and spent it and got out the game. So if hypothetically, if I make $1 million profit and Uncle Sam wants 40%, that's 400,000. So that's almost half my money. But Uncle Sam is going to let me keep my money on the sale when I apply Rule 1031 properly to keep my money. So the government, the IRS, don't want to get you. The IRS tells you what to invest in to incentivize you. The IRS is all about helping you. Again, go read the book Tax Free Wealth. Jeff Bezos don't pay no tax. They shouldn't pay no tax. You know what Amazon does for the economy? So when you in technology, and when you in oil, when you in AI, when you in energy, when you in real estate, by providing housing for people, because this don't work for people who build houses, this don't work for people who flip houses, this works for the landlords who provide housing for people. That rule applies to us on that side, and I play both sides, right? Then you can keep your bread. The IRS rule book is all about keeping your money. We just don't know the rules. So what did Trump tell Hillary? Don't get mad at me because I know the rules. Your people wrote the book in a sense, right? Don't get mad at me. So we don't know the rules of the game. The IRS is not here to hurt you. They really ain't. They're here to show you how to keep your money. We just don't know how to keep it.
All right. Let's get to the next question, Anpu. So you're saying there isn't systemic oppression today as
Nope.
a result of slavery?
I'm not saying that. I absolutely am not saying racism don't exist. I am absolutely not saying Wells Fargo did not discriminate towards black people. I am not saying white cops ain't pulling over black people. I am not saying that. I am absolutely not saying that. What I'm saying is, as the system of racism at its apex called slavery, they got their behinds beat, and we need to start knowing the story of those who kicked their behinds on our behalf. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, as a woman, you're here talking about racism, which is going to turn you into Harriet Tubman, which to a degree, and I'm not saying you particularly, but what happens is the woman gets involved and then she becomes masculinized. You ever ask the question, where the hell was Mr. Tubman? You know what Mr. Tubman was? Mr. Tubman said, Harriet, you keep talking like that, girl, I'm going to tell on you. That's what the legend says. Mr. Tubman was free and Miss Tubman wasn't free. And he didn't want to help her get his freedom. She left. He got another woman, came back, and then he ended up getting in the altercation and got killed by a white man. Mr. Tubman was a sucker. So what I'm saying is, well, John Tubman, her black husband, who was a sucker, was actually Harriet Tubman. She was actually rolling with a white boy by the name of Colonel James Montgomery, giving her guns and looking out for her, while her husband said, I'm going to tell on you. So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying racism don't exist. It absolutely do exist. But what I'm saying is, what about the system that came into play that defeated them? There's a whole series written by Grant's vice president, Harry Wilson, called The Rise and Fall of the Slave Powers. See, my thing is, if we can't name 5 white people that was on our side, we got a problem. We need some studying to do.
All right, let's get to you know what they gonna think, Anpu. You got a white lady? You got a white woman, Anpu?
Nah, man, I ain't did the Jamie Foxx. I ain't never had no white woman. I'm not nothing against white women. I never had one a day in my life. You know, I ain't got to lie about it. I had my second baby mama Asian. She from Thailand, but I think black folks got this little thing with Thailand people, whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? But that's as further as I went from a black woman. You know what I'm saying?
All right, let's we're gonna do 2 more. What time is it? Okay, we about to hit the 2-hour mark. We're gonna do 2 more, then we're gonna get out of here, family. There was one I seen. I wanted to. Okay, what's the history of Freemasonry in Egypt?
Man, so as far as an organized body, I don't see it. But when you get to the shrine work, it starts to point back in that direction. The white boys, when they created the shrine, they went more Arabic. Prince Hall, when they went into the shrine, they went more into the Egyptian mysteries. There's another school of thought that deal with masonry called Memphis Mizraim that deals more with the Egyptian mysteries. Far as the degree work and stuff, you're going to see certain references to Egypt, but in masonry, you're going to see a lot more Judeo-Christian mysticism, Kabbalah, tree of life, and things of that nature. So there's some reference points there. Reference points there in masonry, but it's going to be more in your Egyptian orders of the shrine. That's going to be there in some little bit more of offsets in offshoots rather. But here's the thing too, is Freemasonry in Egypt, they ain't got it. That's why I said earlier, the Rosicrucians got the Egyptian mysteries. That's the real connection. That's the real connection. See, Masons ain't trying to astral travel. Masons ain't trying to meditate to get your consciousness to evolve. It's all philosophical framework with no practicality to it. There's no practice that you do inside of Masonry. You just got to remember these words, and we do a ritual, and they're not building on the inner essence of anything. There's absolutely nothing to do when you go home. You just come in and you repeat stuff, and it's like just being in a play. That's all it is. It's a play. When you get into the school of the Rosicrucians, 20 weeks meditate like this, keep on doing it until you have a certain experience. Now you got to go within yourself. So that's the real Egyptian mysteries. Masonry ain't got the connection to Egypt like that. It just got it in symbolism, but it ain't got it in practice.
Okay. Should misclassified people of Indian American descent sue states or the federal government to reclassify themselves?
So misclassified people of Indian American descent. So I think we're going to have a slight problem right here, right? To a degree. And my problem is if we go with the so-called 5 civilized tribes in a sense, There's the Treaty of 1860. I think that may be 1865. It may be. But the treaty between the Choctaw and Chickasaw, the United States government is telling these tribes stop enslaving black folks. Maybe 1868. I got the treaty on my other computer right here. Um, the truth of the matter is the Cherokee had slaves. They fought with the Confederates. The Creek, the Chickasaw, certain tribes did have slaves, and literally the government had to step in and tell them stop doing this to people of African descent, literally. And so I think it kind of gets a little murky right then and there. But I think anything can be done. I think that could be done. I think if we really want to put together a think tank and a strategy, as the one person said, well, when they dropped the ball on Special Field Order number 15, then here comes Jim Crow. Yep, you got a valid point. United States government, you dropped the ball right here. You dropped the ball when you allow Andrew Jackson to come out of Spain, which was Florida, and Fort Negro, and bring slaves back right here. You dropped the ball when we had a right to vote by the 15th Amendment in 1870, but it takes Martin Luther King to push the Democratic line and switch the parties up for us, because that's when we went from Republican to Democrat in that election right there in 64, which is interesting. That's a switch. And then in the culture, we hit the 6-4 Impala, we hit switches where we doing our hydraulic thing, right? So there was a major switch in the 64 election. But anyway, you dropped the ball right there because we suffered 90 years of a setback inside the political arena, and you did not come to the rescue, and you did not stand behind the emancipation. But forget the emancipation, that's a military order. You didn't stand behind the 13th Amendment and the 15th Amendment, and I dare say even the 14th Amendment, which is known as the Civil Rights Amendment. So you dropped the ball right there as a country when you let that happen. Now, as far as what our classification is, in a sense, I think that's something that can be determined. But I think really to keep it simple is it need to be 51st districts throughout the continental United States. And then within those districts, let's just say these states who absolutely did rebel and tried to form their own nation states, if you get X amount of dollars from the federal government, your federal budget is cut by a certain percentage, and this money now gets allocated to the 51st districts. So we got these 51st districts. People who are in the 51st districts, we may not be people who pay an income tax on our income on the federal level or even the state level. So it's something that we need to do within the 51st districts all throughout that. And I think not anybody, but we don't necessarily have to reclassify what our race is and things of that nature, because it's always going to be a conflict within that. But within that whole diaspora of civil rights and slavery, we all fit the bill of the descendants of that within the 51st district.
Okay. And we're going to conclude. We got one more question, family. Then we're going to get out of here. Where is it at? Does he see Black America with an equal playing field in the near future, next 10 years?
Next 10 years, yeah. The biggest problem, because again, I got to use real estate because it makes you rich. Listen, ladies and gents, I was in consciousness. I came in consciousness, like really getting on the scene, like the 06 era, right? Stepped away in 16, at the end of 16, when Rick Ross came out with It's Time to Buy Back the Block. And then I decided to go real estate, right? So my thing has always been astro coaching and like doing law of attraction type stuff, right? Showing you the power of the mind and stuff. I got tons of testimonials. In fact, I meant to show you some, but it's all good. People know my work. You can just see it. But I decided to go real estate. And within that period of time, I have built myself over a 7-figure portfolio, right? Working on 8, right? Literally on paper, assets wise, I'm a millionaire. I may not have it in cash, but in assets, I got it, right? And so I had to put some things on hold and get rid of just victim mindset mentality and stuff, right? And really had to focus. Then again, study tax-free wealth. This is how you keep your money. Wait a minute, I thought the IRS was out to get us, and this dude actually teaches Robert Kiyosaki's class, the most popular finance book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he telling us that the majority of the IRS code is showing you how to keep your money. But I was told that these are the bad guys. I'm missing something here. I'm misinformed, right? And we are misinformed. So one of the biggest obstacles that we have right now is access to capital. And my mentor in the real estate space, who has a permit to build the tallest skyscraper in the Western Hemisphere in New York City and Manhattan, known as Affirmation Tower, Don Peebles, is putting together a fund to raise $1 billion where he can give it to investors who obviously are investors, right? That you can have access to capital to be able to do some things. So, y'all need to, I'm gonna tell you who's a good study. Study Magic Johnson on business and look at the business moves he made. When Magic Johnson was going to the insurance people and trying to get money, they kept nope. CalPERS, California Public Employment Retirement System, nope. But when they finally said yeah, and he went and bought a mall that was only like 60% occupied and made it 100% occupied, and I forget what the numbers was, but if they gave him 200 million, he came back with 300 million. It's been game on ever since. So the biggest barrier of entry is not necessarily racism per se, like, it's more of an access to capital in a sense. But we got to keep on pushing the line. So absolutely, with people like Don Peebles, y'all should study him. Black man, real estate developer, bought a club down in Miami where they wouldn't allow Jews and black people. There go that link again. They wouldn't allow Jews and black people in this club, like a social club. Only time black people can come in is you can only stay outside and bring in, take out the luggage, but you can't step foot inside of the facility. He owns that now. I think it's called the Bath Club. He owns that now. Black man owns it now, right? So we talking about somebody who got a net worth of close to $1 billion that's raising $1 billion fund so we can have access to capital. So I think what we're starting to see with Trump, with the Elons, the Bezos and stuff, you're going to see more pools of capital and these things get created to incentivize us to step our game up to get access to this capital so we can make moves. I'm telling y'all, jump into real estate. All right. That's the one thing God ain't making no more of. Get some of that.
Just want to throw this last question in. I seen somebody
Man,
just ask it.
all good, bro.
Does Anpu support reparations for FBA, given his research on the founding fathers of the Constitution?
What's FBA? I'm slow. What's that?
Foundational Black Americans. I think you mentioned Tariq Nasheed earlier.
Oh yeah. Listen, I think absolutely. I think, listen, the United States government, you dropped the ball. See, I know how to nail them. You got some explaining to do, homie. Like yo. Y'all went off par. Y'all missed what Lincoln sacrificed his life for. Y'all missed it. Even my homie Grant, you kind of missed it a little. Yeah, you stumped out the Ku Klux Klan good looking. But after Grant, 1877, everything shifted. It wasn't no more about getting black folks about the situation and being no. Y'all dropped the ball. There's a 90-year, almost 100-year gap. And I'll tell you precisely again, from the passing of the 15th Amendment, 1870 to 1965, the Civil Rights Act, Voters' Rights Act of Martin Luther King and LBJ, that is a 95 year period of time that Jim Crow was in effect, and we could have been doing some other things. So absolutely something you got to write that, even though you were our allies, but at the same time, when you was our allies and you got us out, you still didn't protect us in a sense as citizens. We became citizens on the 13th. Well, we became citizens on the 14th, right? You ain't a slave no more. The 13th, 14th, you a citizen, 15th vote, right? So you a citizen on the 14th. You didn't protect your citizens at that particular point. You see what I'm saying? So you got to fix that. And the states who rebelled against you, you got to cut some of that federal budget that you give to them to aid to the 51st. That's why I say that question that you have, reparations for the FBA, that's why I say that's the 51st district. That's throughout the whole continental United States. You see what I'm saying? So absolutely.
All right. Hey, Anpu, listen, I appreciate you, man, for coming on here. Coming with the the people was gonna get at you.
Oh man, that's all good, man. That ain't nothing, man. And listen, man, let me say this too, man. If I came off hasty to a brother, I forget his name, that's just out of love and the passion of it. You know what I'm saying? So it ain't no hard feelings from me and you. You know, it ain't none of that. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, yo, bro, come on, man. This is that. You know what I'm saying? So this is just out of the love of the sport. You know what I'm saying? So it's all love here, bro. And I appreciate you, man, all day.
You know Indeed, I got to get you and Jew on here
Yeah,
again.
yeah. I can get back in my spiritual bag and show
In
y'all
the
cats how
quantum,
to.
back in the
Yeah,
quantum bag, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah. Show y'all how to manifest some dang on money. You know what I'm saying? And do some stuff like that. You know what I mean? That's the fun part. You know what I mean?
And Pooh, leave all your contact info. I know some people gonna want to reach out to you, my brother. Leave all your info and let them know everything you got coming up, brother, before you get out of here.
Yeah, yeah, all day, man. Y'all can check me out on Patreon. So it's Patreon Noble Anpu. That's right there. It's only $20 a month, man. Look, we got a lot of stuff going on
Yeah.
every single week. You know what I mean? Like the first week is we may be fasting for 3 days as a group. We fast on the first week and the third week. All right. So we time that with the moon. There's some inner work that we do on a special class on Sundays. On Tuesdays, tomorrow, like right now, we in Egypt, like we studying the Hermetic laws and conditioning our mind to redo certain traumas in a sense, right? We got a lottery group. We got 10 chats in the Patreon where we playing the lottery, where we dealing with manifestation, mystic conversation, gratitude on a daily basis and whatnot. So it's a great place to be in on self-accountability. Man, I got a plethora of collections. Like when you come in, collections tab, money visualizations to do, people getting money in the mail, all kind of stuff. If you know our work, like that stuff is there. People, mom ain't sick no more from doing certain prayer visualizations and all kind of stuff. All that stuff is just sitting there as soon as you come in and whatnot. And you can check me on YouTube, Noble Anpu. And I'm more in my Quran bag. Like Jew get into the Bible. I'm showing y'all the mysticism in the Quran. The Quran for the cosmic side, oh my God, can't nothing touch the Quran when it comes to the cosmic side of things. So you can check me out on YouTube /Noble Anpu, and again, come through the Patreon, man. That's where I'm at.
Anpu, tell me something that's ill that the Quran talk says in reference to the Sirius star system. Tell me
So
something.
yeah, so check it out. In chapter 53 is called the star. And in that chapter it says, and he is the Lord of Sirius. So the question, Muslim, is, well, why Allah gotta declare himself as the Lord of Sirius for? What's that about? And then in the same chapter, he starts talking about how he created man and woman from these souls.
Right.
So wait a minute. If I cross-reference that to the Dogon said we from Sirius. The Nomos came from Sirius and actually came here. So now the Quran got this God named Allah saying, yeah, I'm the Lord of Sirius, and this is how your DNA and your souls were created for. And it's like, hold on, are you making the parallel to that? So when you look at this verse, the verse is actually verse 49. Now, what's real interesting about Sirius is Sirius has a companion star that's going around it. And it takes that star 49.9 years, so almost 50 star. This whole flag is a Syrian flag. I did this years ago on Brother Rich show when we was doing the New Year's joint, like 2016, 2015. Go check them. That's old work. I'm showing you that this flag is a Syrian flag. This is our science that we have. See, this ain't just because I'm this patriot dude. No, this is our science that this is being rocked. All right. So anyway, to put that in verse 49, he's the Lord of Sirius, but that's the astronomical calculation of Sirius. The word moon, Rich, is used 27 times in the Quran. But go look up something called a Ceridial month. The moon takes 27 days to do a Ceridial month. So if Sirius is right here and the moon is here, it'll take 27 days for the moon to come back in line with that fixed star. So the word day is said to be in the Quran 365 times. The word for time, when you look at the root word and you do its numerical value of those three letters, equals 360. But our whole reality is a circle, and that's how we measure time, in a 360-degree circle. So the Quran is by far the illest. I told you he got to do his top 5, Rich. Maybe we can do it with you. Do your top 5, and I'm gonna do my top 5, and let's just have a nice powwow with these scriptures right here, because the Quran is on astronomical science, bro. That's out of here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we definitely got to chop it up more about that.
Yeah.
Man. Listen, my brother, salute to you.
Yeah, bro.
Thank
Appreciate you, man.
Again for coming on the show, and we will talk soon, man. But keep up doing what you're doing, my brother. I'm glad you got into real estate and doing your thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love to share that with the audience too. You know what I'm saying? Y'all gotta get some money, man. We gotta balance this thing out. Be spiritually rich, mentally rich, and physically rich at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
With that being said, shout out to everybody. We still got 1,700 people in the chat. They stayed the whole show too, man.
Oh man, that's what's up, man.
They stayed the whole show. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I'll be back tomorrow. Actually, the brother Sharif Bey will be on tomorrow. So y'all can tune in tomorrow at 9 o'clock. With that being said, we signing out. Peace, family.
Peace.
Peace.